Hey man, what's wrong with you?
When I say cut, we're gonna cut through these houses, okay?
Gotcha. Punk ass.
Come on, get him, man, get him.
Got no mother neither. She love that food more than she loved me.
Help me! Help me! Somebody help me!
I separated myself from Lloyd, and John was separating himself from Lloyd because Lloyd had started committing crimes, and he was really embracing that gang-banging lifestyle.
When a 23-year-old first-time director stepped onto the streets of South Central Los Angeles with a camera and a vision, nobody could have predicted that what happened next would change Hollywood forever.
There's a mother in the film who raises her two sons, and one she overly loves, and he becomes irresponsible and a teenage father. And the other one she doesn't love enough, and he becomes a gangster.
What you're about to discover goes beyond the screen. These 6 moments from Boyz in the Hood didn't just define a generation. They exposed truth so raw, so visceral, that even the cast and crew weren't prepared for what they'd witnessed.
Oh, we got a problem here? We got a problem here? We got a problem?
And trust me, by the time we reach number 1, you'll understand why this movie still haunts us decades later. Let's dive in. Number 6. The Eazy-E shirt that started a war. Here's something you probably missed. In one of the film's most tense scenes, a character casually wears an Eazy-E t-shirt. Seems innocent, right? Wrong. Director John Singleton didn't just randomly pick that wardrobe choice. This was 1991, and Ice Cube, who played Doughboy, had just left NWA in one of hip-hop's most explosive breakups.
You know, I knew what I was going to do. That actually, after I decided to lead a group, you know, I ended up calling Dre to see if he wanted to work on my solo record.
The beef between Cube and Eazy-E was nuclear. Diss tracks were flying.
Looking like straight bozos. I saw it coming, that's why I went solo.
Lawsuits were brewing. The streets were choosing sides. So when Singleton slipped that Eazy-E shirt into the frame, it wasn't just fashion. It was a calculated jab, a cinematic middle finger that only insiders would catch. Cube had to act opposite a walking reminder of his biggest rival. And somehow, he channeled that tension into one of the most authentic performances in the film. But here's where it gets interesting. That shirt became a symbol of something bigger. The real-world conflicts bleeding into the art. The line between fiction and reality was already starting to blur. And as you'll see, that blurring would have consequences nobody saw coming. Number 5. When reality crashed the set. Filming Boyz in the Hood wasn't some controlled Hollywood backlot experience. John Singleton insisted on shooting in the actual neighborhoods of South Central Los Angeles, the same streets where gang violence was as common as sunrise.
South Central Los Angeles may be their most familiar turf, but violent drug-peddling gangs are spreading out across the nation.
This wasn't for aesthetic authenticity, this was survival storytelling. On one particular day, the crew was setting up a scene when local residents approached, not with curiosity, with hostility. Words were exchanged. Tensions escalated. Then someone pulled out a gun. The production ground to a halt. Crew members scattered. The threat was real, immediate, and terrifying. They were filming on blood territory without full clearance, and the neighborhood wasn't about to let Hollywood waltz in without consequences. Singleton had to negotiate, had to explain his vision, had to convince gang members that this film wasn't exploitation, it was representation. Eventually, they got permission to continue, but the message was clear. Respect the streets, or the streets will remind you who's in charge. That moment of genuine danger, it infused every frame that followed with an electricity you can't fake. The actors knew they weren't just pretending to be in danger. They were literally surrounded by it. But the real danger was still ahead. Number 4. The actor who couldn't escape his role. Lloyd Avey II played a small but chilling role in Boyz in the Hood. His character was memorable precisely because of how authentic his menace felt. That cold stare, that unpredictable violence. It wasn't acting. It was something deeper, something darker. After the film wrapped, Lloyd's life didn't follow the Hollywood success story. Instead, it spiraled. The line between his on-screen persona and his real-life choices became dangerously thin. In 1999, Lloyd committed a brutal double homicide, 2 lives taken, one in a moment of rage, the other in cold calculation. He was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. But even behind bars, violence found him. On September 4th, 2005, at Pelican Bay State Prison, Lloyd was unalived by his cellmate Kevin Roby, strangled at the age of 36.
Saw Lloyd's body in the middle of the cell in the center of a pentagram, and there was blood all over the walls.
A life that began with cinematic promise ended in a cell, surrounded by the same violence he once portrayed. Some say it's a cautionary tale. Others see it as proof that for some people, the streets don't let go. They follow you, they claim you, and they never stop demanding payment. Lloyd's story remains one of the darkest shadows cast by Boyz in the Hood, a reminder that not everyone makes it out. Number 3. The paralysis that hit too close to home. Reggie Green played Chris in his adult form, a young man confined to a wheelchair after gun violence destroyed his mobility and his dreams.
Man, it's family business. Hey, man. Hey, yo, what's your problem, man? Y'all are brothers. You ain't supposed to be fighting each other.
It was a powerful performance, filled with quiet rage and heartbreak. But here's what nobody told you while you were watching. Reggie Green was already a victim of gun violence in real life. The paralysis you saw on screen, that was his reality. He wasn't acting paralyzed, he was paralyzed. The wheelchair wasn't a prop, it was his everyday existence. And when he delivered those lines about lost futures and stolen possibilities, he wasn't reading from a script, he was speaking his truth.
I'm saying in Iran, at the age of 6, and this is real, one man used me as a body shield, while another man shot.
John Singleton cast Reggie specifically because he wanted that authenticity. He needed the audience to feel the weight of gun violence, not as a distant tragedy, but as an intimate, irreversible theft. And Reggie's performance delivered exactly that. But the tragedy goes deeper. Here was a man whose life had already been derailed by the same violence the film was trying to expose, and his presence on screen became a living indictment of the system that failed him. Every scene with Chris wasn't just drama, it was testimony, and the audience felt it, even if they didn't know why. Number 2, gunshots without warning. John Singleton made a decision that would terrify most directors. When it came time to film the movie's most shocking moments of violence, he deliberately kept his actors in the dark. Literally, he didn't tell them when the gunshots would happen. So when you watch those scenes and see genuine terror flash across faces, when you see bodies flinch with real shock, and when you feel your own heart stop for a split second, that's not performance. That's raw, unfiltered human reaction to sudden violence. Ice Cube didn't know when the shots would ring out. Cuba Gooding Jr. didn't know. None of them knew. Singleton wanted authentic fear, and the only way to get it was to recreate the actual experience of street violence, sudden, brutal, and without warning. Some actors were furious afterward. They felt manipulated, traumatized, but Singleton stood by his choice. He explained, "Violence doesn't announce itself, it just happens, and I needed the audience to feel that." The result was some of the most viscerally affecting violence ever captured on film. Not gratuitous, not glorified, just real. And that realness changed how Hollywood approached depicting urban trauma. But all of that pales in comparison to what we're about to discuss. Number 1, the director who saw it all coming. John Singleton was 23 years old when he directed Boyz in the Hood. 23! Most people at that age are still figuring out their lives. Singleton was creating a masterpiece. But here's the thing that still gives people chills. He didn't just make a movie about South Central Los Angeles. He predicted what would happen if nothing changed. Every warning in that film about systemic neglect, about violence breeding violence, about communities abandoned by those who swore to protect them, it all came true. The film premiered on July 12, 1991. That same night, violence erupted at theaters across the country. Shootings, riots.
Good evening. A Chicago man was killed and 20 other people were wounded in disturbances around the country last night. Disturbances linked to the opening of a movie called Boyz in the Hood.
The very thing Singleton was trying to prevent with his art was happening because of his art, or so the media claimed. But Singleton saw through the narrative. They're blaming the movie for the violence, he said. But the violence was already there. I just showed it to people who wanted to ignore it. And he was right. Boyz in the Hood became the youngest director ever nominated for an Academy Award at that time, and the film grossed over $57 million against a $6 million budget. But more importantly, it forced America to confront uncomfortable truths about race, poverty, and the school-to-prison pipeline. Singleton's vision was prophetic. He showed us Trez struggled to escape the cycle. He showed us Doughboy's resignation to his fate. He showed us Ricky's dreams cut short by a bullet. And he showed us that without systemic change, this would keep happening over and over, generation after generation. Decades later, we're still having the same conversations, still losing young people to the same violence, still failing to break the cycle. John Singleton passed away on April 29, 2019, at the age of 51, following a stroke.
Singleton died after suffering a stroke. He's being remembered across Hollywood. Samuel L. Jackson, Ava DuVernay, Barbra Streisand, and so many more.
Boyz in the Hood wasn't just a film. It was a cultural reckoning. From the real-world dangers that stalked the set, to the tragic fates of those involved, from the hidden feuds embedded in wardrobe choices, to the director's refusal to let his actors hide from real fear, every moment of this production was charged with something larger than cinema. It forced us to look at violence not as entertainment, but as consequence, as a loss, as a preventable tragedy. And that's why, more than 30 years later, we're still talking about it, still learning from it, still unable to look away. If this countdown gave you chills, drop a comment and let us know which moment shocked you the most. And if you want more deep dives into the stories behind the stories, hit that subscribe button, because we're just getting started.